building itself is a living memorial with so much history behind it, and a dark chapter really in Canadian history. It needed to be told, it needed to be shared with the world community, the global community. For me, it's been a very long journey. I served in Long Plain Public Service for 26 years, 20 of them as the Chief of Long Plain.
As a young chief at that time, I didn't know much about what had happened, other than that I attended 4 general schools, and I know personally the experiences that I had, but it sure touched hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of families, communities, children, some that never made it home. My name is Ernie Daniels, former chief of Long Plain and also a survivor of Red School. My oldest sister was only 2 years old when she was placed here. She was the youngest here. The older girls will look after her as she was growing up here. So she's passed on now, but 1,000 cases like that people that have passed on and didn't tell their story. They didn't get justice and fairness in terms of recognition and compensation.
My uncle was quite sick, and as a young child in this school, he possibly had pneumonia. And they put him out on a grate on the second floor where the boys' dormitory is, because they thought he was going to pass away. To me, that's really inhumane treatment at the hands of people that we were supposed to trust, but of course we all know there was a different agenda. He had a friend of his join him and kept him company through the night, and he survived. His fever broke, and he was able to walk out of that. And then remarkably, he goes on to serve the Canadian Army as a peacetime veteran, and he's still alive today. My mom also attended this school, and she ran away from the school. Long Plain is not far from here, the main reserve, and her and her friends were following the river, Anishinaabemowin River, because it passes through the Long Plain. They were caught, brought back here. Matrons came. It was horrible what they did to them. They cut their hair off, and then they put paper bags over their heads. And then they went down for supper, and my mom, her friends were quite ashamed of what happened to them. And then the matrons come along and just rip the paper bags off their heads to expose, that, okay, if you run away, this is what can happen to you.
We were happy, children growing up, then somebody comes along from government, takes us away, puts us in a place of confinement, containment. Halls call it a glorified concentration camp, which I call culture genocide myself, to assimilate us, to get rid of the spirit of an Indian in us, to get rid of our languages, get rid of our culture, our ceremonies, our lodges, which we had a very strong attachment to. And we were tortured. We were physically, sexually, and emotionally and psychologically abused because they thought our language, our ceremonies were evil. Their language was more or less destroyed by this process. Because a number of our children, our people right now, our adults, they don't have a clue about their language. That's kind of a testament of what happened. As a young chief, I asked myself, what am I going to do with this building? What am I going to do with this land? One of the thoughts I had was to destroy it because of his legacy. But I went back to the elders at that time, and I asked them, should we blow up that place? Should we get rid of it? And they said to me, no. We keep it because we want to tell the world what happened here. This is a testimony of the Black history of Canada in regards to Indigenous people on the regional school issue, colonization, assimilation. Chief and council, I and staff, my advisors, we all worked together to acquire this land, and we did. This was our land. So it became to be in 1981, it was declared a reserve status part of Long Plain.
Back in 1981, it did become a school, Yelko College.
So our kids came and learned and empowered themselves in capacity building. And a lot of people graduated here through this building here and went on to work and became leaders, became administrators, and became workers. But the Yelko College all moved to Winnipeg and is still doing good work. After Yelko College left, through the leadership of former Chief Dennis Meeches, started working on a museum.
We felt, at the time that we needed to preserve the history of what happened at the school and schools across Canada. So there was a big effort to create a space where people could really, truly appreciate the challenges people had to endure during the residential school era. We're very, very blessed in many ways that we are the caretakers and that we can showcase to the world the history of Indigenous people through this museum, although it'll capture primarily the residential school era, but also pre-contact, the treaty time, even Canada's greatest time of need in the world wars, Korean conflict, our Indigenous warriors enlisted in the greatest numbers, even after the devastating experience that they've had to go through here. Our work is almost in some ways just beginning, because now that it has historic site status, it's our responsibility. Make sure we preserve that history, work with our Indigenous relatives across the country to tell the story through Indigenous lens, Indigenous eyes, so people can truly understand what the Indigenous population faced in this country because of colonial imposition on our way of life. We've been able to pick ourselves up and begin in that sacred journey of repatriating our way of life, our culture, our traditions, our languages. So there's so much work to do. And the museum represents that promise to be able to do that by working towards getting the support of Canadians in general across the country and also the global community. Because I think Canadians do want to help. They do want to assist. They understand now the true history of what's happened to Indigenous people in this country. It's not a history that people want to hear and see, but they have to, just to understand and to be able to walk with Indigenous people on that road to reconciliation.
I'm glad our people have survived. They're resilient. We are practicing our ways now. We're trying our best to retain our language for our kids, for them to understand our history is a spiritual and cultural people.
Manedo, Nenagachi. Azukan Ninakwena Manedo Ginagati Manedo Ninagati Nigbayang niwabedan Adzukan ninakwenda Manedo ginagaji Manedo ninagachik Kiwetenang niwabedan Adzukan